Hello everyone and welcome back to Liquid Evil Gaming. So my apologies for the delay in getting this review up, but due to a couple of technical difficulties, aka myself being stupid and forgetting to record the audio, I had to delay this quite a bit. So this is going to be my review of the KUL 87ES 10 keyless keyboard with Cherry MX Green switches. Now, this is going to be a little bit of a lengthy review because I'm going to be covering not only the board itself, but back and forth responses I've had with KUL Keyed Up Labs throughout the entire process, and giving you my impressions of them as a company, well as not just their product, because they're kind of a lesser known keyboard company. And let's be frank, the mechanical keyboard market is very, very flooded right now. So even small differences can really be appreciated by people when making their purchasing decision. So, let's start off with the keyboard, kind of a basic overview of it itself. Now, I'm going to put a link in the description to my unboxing video, so if you haven't seen that yet, watch that first. You can see what the keyboard comes with and how it's packaged. I'm not going to go through that in this video again. Now, the keyboard itself is very hefty, heavy, very well built, does not ping. There's virtually no flex to speak of. This thing has incredible build, so that's very, very appreciated. You can tell that they really put a lot of the budget into making sure that this thing's solid. It feels nearly as rigid as my Poker 3 with the aluminum case, and this is still plastic. The keyboard has Cherry MX stabilizers, not Co-Star. I know some don't like them and some do. I personally prefer Cherry MX stabilizers. Now, if you're not sure the quick difference, I'll give you kind of a quick overview, but Cherry MX stabilizers literally just look like there's two little small Cherry MX switches on each side, although they're not, they're just holders. And then the actual switch, like on the spacebar, for example. And some people say that they feel mushy and don't feel like the other keys. And there is validity to that, which is true, but I don't notice it enough for it to bother me. And they're very easy to do keycap changes on for that reason. Now, Co-Star are the ones that use these little wires here and these little tabs that you have to put in, and you have to line them up with the wires, and getting them off and putting them on, in my personal opinion, is pure evil. Now, yes, you can go ahead and say that the Philco or Co-Star style keys feel more closely to the other keys on the board, so they have that advantage, but personally I don't think it's worth it. I prefer the Cherry MX stabilizers, and I appreciate that KUL uses them because I tend to prefer boards that use those instead of the Co-Star style. But moving on, like I said earlier, this one has MX Green switches. They do feel very solid, very uniform across the board. You can tell they're nice and clicky. The stock ABS keycaps are nothing to write home about. As you can see, this is the keycap I put on after the fact. Those are Vortex PBT double shots. These are the stock ABS caps. They're very thin. They have raised lettering on them. They dull out very quickly. As a matter of fact, if you can see, this is a stock cap. It used to be as white as this, and these were not used long at all. These were used for maybe a week, maybe a week and a half at the most, probably not even that, and they already started to fade. So the stock caps really are poor, and I know that KUL realizes a lot of people swap them out right away, but still, even for stock caps, these are pretty bad. But I'll get into that more later in the video, as I did get a response from KUL, and I asked them several questions like that about their board and why they made that choice ultimately. Now, the board itself, besides what you can see in the top here, if you look on the side here, you've got this weird little notch almost looking thing. This whole top part of the case can actually come off, and you can buy colored replacements. They have a white one, they have a blue one, not sure what other colors they have. But they come officially from Keyed Up Labs. I believe they're about $30 a piece or $39 a piece. And swapping these out does not void your warranty, and you can add a little bit of further customization to your keyboard. So that's kind of a nice little option to have there as well. The rubber feet are great on this board. You've got the double padded rubber feet toward the front. You've got one in the upper corners there, and you actually have rubber padding on the actual keyboard feet itself, so that's really good. It keeps it from sliding around. You also, of course, have your traditional dip switches, which turn on and off your Windows mode, and you can swap left control for caps lock, etc., etc. Turn on N key rollover on USB, and there's also a future expansion dip switch. This is a little strange. I've never seen that before, so I don't know what their future plans are for that. The cable routing system, unlike my complaints in the WASD code review, the cable routing system on this actually work very, very well. The cable's nice and sturdy. It doesn't come out or flop around. They did include a stock thick rubber cable. Again, as I always say, I wish they'd do braided, but it does stay in place very well, so major props for that. Now, whenever I do a keyboard review in the future, I'm going to do something called the keyboard drawer test. And what that is if you want to see exactly how well keyboard stays in place for its rubber feet and how sturdy it's going to stay there without sliding around like some keyboards, like the DOS keyboards, which slide around like they're in an ice hockey rink. Put it flat down on a keyboard drawer and just poke at it with your finger. And if the keyboard stays still and you can move the drawer around without the board moving, it's got some pretty damn good rubber feet on there, which this one passes that test with flying colors. And in fact, the WASD code, when I tried it, does pretty well, but not as well. Whereas other ones, like my Poker 3, slid around a decent amount, and I tried my friend's DOS doing that, and it slid around like crazy. So it's not going to move anywhere, no matter pretty much what you do to this, short of you punching or kicking it, which if you do that, stop abusing your keyboard, damn it. The warranty on this board is 2 years, and they have a domestic presence in the U.S., so if you were inside the United States, getting the board serviced will be very easy, whereas opposed to something like a Poker from Vortex or a Philco board or something like that, getting warranty service can be a nightmare, when they're located outside the country and don't have a domestic presence. So that's definitely appreciated and very nice to deal with. So I told you I was going to talk a little bit about KUL, Keyed Up Labs, as a company, and my dealings with them back and forth with emails and calls and everything else, and what I think makes them a little bit different. So let me start with, a while back I had made a post on the mechanical keyboard subreddit, and I complained about KUL's warranty. The way they had it worded made it sound as though the warranty was 2 years, but up until the purchase price of the keyboard, meaning that once you hit the retail cost of the keyboard, your warranty was considered fulfilled, which sounded something like a cheesy, shady third-party warranty. So I emailed KUL and asked them about this directly, and I'm not going to read you the whole thing because basically, it would take all day, but to sum it up, his last paragraph, he basically said, in the future, if you have questions about things like this, I suggest you ask for clarification if you suspect sinister corporate motives. The reality is that most warranty terms are motivated by market forces or compelled by local laws, and small companies like WASD and or KUL do not employ penny-pinching accountants in cahoots with a bloodthirsty legal team trying to craftily deny customers a fair deal. So you can tell their CSR reps have a bit of a personality and answer your questions timely while kind of getting a little bit of a humor in there. The CSR rep I dealt with the most was David, and as busy as he was handling pretty much every mailbox they had, tech support, general questions, etc., and he always got back to me right away. So, David, if you happen to watch this, I very much appreciate your time, and your fast responses are definitely duly noted. Also, I had sent them an email asking them a few questions before I purchased the board. Now, the only one that would be of consequence to all of you and what you'd be curious about is I asked Keyed Up Labs, and I said, the market's very flooded right now. There's a ton of keyboard companies out there. What makes your company different, and can I quote you on that? And I did get a response from Keyed Up Labs. Now, I'm going to read you their comments verbatim here, so you may want to skip through this part of the video if you don't want to hear this long, drawn-out read. His response, and I quote, and once again, this is David, "Great reviews." I sent them some of my sample reviews. I think we're very different in that we're fairly unwilling to make compromises in our design, production, and research. Of course, there are some design choices we make that some people would say are cheaping out, but that is not the case in our minds, and we think that they would see that if they had a better understanding of our product. For example, we got a lot of flack from the enthusiast community for not bringing it aboard with PBT keycaps because PBT keycaps have better durability than ABS. The reality is that the whole PBT versus ABS keycap quality argument is a very narrow perspective and a small part of the lifetime of a keyboard. Good Cherry MX keyboard should outlast multiple sets of keycaps, ABS or PBT. We put a lot of resources into the design and component sourcing, and ultimately at some point we had to say, okay, we cannot spend another dime or we're going to price ourselves out of the market and our focus and reliability will be lost. You see, a lot of people familiar with Cherry MX keyboards, and many who even make them as a hobby or business, see MX switches as a drop-in component that immediately makes their keyboard awesome sauce. Unfortunately for everyone, this assumption is not true. As evidenced by the many posts you see in forums and reviews about failing or chattering MX switches, there is an art to making good mechanical keyboards. Same goes for every other component in the keyboard. Part of the reason our boards cost a bit more than others is all components are from name brand Japanese or American manufacturers. Many consumer products on the market cut corners in this regard and just use Chinese-made everything under the hood, but this affects reliability also. So I really thought that that was a great response from KUL, and you can definitely tell it shows in the board. The quality is just, it speaks for itself. The only thing I'd probably disagree with is the whole ABS PBT keycap thing. Now, I agree most people are going to want to pick their own aftermarket cap, so I get that. But I don't think it would have cost them that much more to at least include double shot ABS as stock caps, so in case somebody didn't care to replace them, there you're going to have caps that the, legends don't start wearing off almost immediately. And B, I don't know about what kind of PBT caps that KUL's talking about, but any ones I've had, they're going to last a long time. So, yeah. But either way, the rest of it I thought was a great response and kind of showed what KUL, or Keyed Up Labs, stands for as a company. So, my final rating for the keyboard itself, I would give the keyboard a 9 out of 10 and would say that it is my favorite 10 keyless board I've ever used. The quality is phenomenal. The only reason I'm giving it a 9 out of 10 instead of a 10 out of 10 are two reasons. One, there is no LED option at all. Now, while that's not a big deal for me, it is a trend that a lot of people look for in the market, and some people really like to have that option. So it's a shame that they didn't at least offer it, even if it cost more, say as a slightly different model. The other thing I would have to dock it just a slight bit for is also the mediocre stock caps. Yes, again, I know most people are going to replace them, but these things are thin, the legends wear off quickly, and they're really just all around bad. I mean, really, really bad. Again, I know most people are going to replace them. I know everybody's going to argue that, but still, I don't think it would have cost too much to buy a cheap OEM double shot cap that wouldn't cost all that much, like a rose wheel quality or something like that. So at least if somebody didn't want to change out the caps at all or didn't want to do it for a while, it'd be better than these, which will need replacing very, very soon after you get the keyboard. So that is my review on the KUL 87 Keyed Up Labs keyboard. I absolutely love this thing. As you can see, it is on my keyboard drawer, which is the spot for my daily driver, and this will be that way at least for the foreseeable future. I did add O-rings to this in addition to the replacement of the keycaps to cut down the clack on the keyboard. And I'll just give you a little bit of a sound sample now so you can hear what it sounds like with the Vortex PBT caps and the O-rings on the board. So as you can tell, all the switches are nice and clicky and uniform, and that's very much appreciated. And the O-ring helps cut down on that deep clack, which I'm not a huge fan of, since I tend to bottom out keys far more than most people do. I would definitely recommend you get this keyboard if you're in the market for 10 keyless. It's made in a few other Switch variations. I know they have it in brown. I know they have it in green. I know they have it in clears, and there's other colors I believe that they have as available too. But those are the ones I tend to look at the most. So thanks for watching. If you stayed to the end of this video, what do you think of the KUL 87? If you've used one, or if you own one now, are you considering purchasing one? Let me know down in the comments below. As always, thanks for watching Liquid Evil Gaming. Have a good one, everybody.